Well, it only took 20 minutes to get all that straightened out. I'm telling you, the A10 Mini Pro is giving me some headaches, but eventually I'll get that sorted out. So, the whole purpose of this live stream tonight is to talk about the 100 to 400S. We have no idea what the aperture range is going to be on it, but to compare it to maybe the 80 to 400 G lens, which I have, and I have used it extensively for motocross and some other things. But I think that the two may be comparable. I would expect that the 100 to 400 is going to be better. I would hope so, considering it's, with the new mount, the new Z mount. And so I've got photos that I can show for those that may want to see them. If anybody jumps in and they want to see those photos, I can jump over. These are some of the rejects from one of the races. It's 5 or 6 years ago. I can't remember exactly. I think I've got a few of those from Budds Creek and a few from Unadilla. So, but it gives you an idea of the focal range and just how much the lens resolves. Again, I would expect that the 100 to 400 will be so much better. It's in a whole new category of lenses, the S line. So I would love to have that lens. I know it's going to be announced next week, and I don't whether I buy it then, if I can, that is, or have to wait till later will depend on the price of the Z9. So hopefully the Z9 will come in and shock us all with a I don't know, a reasonable price. I still think it's going to come in at 6K, just under 6K. I may be very disappointed, but definitely hoping that it does come in around the 6K mark. If that's the case, or if it was at $54.99, I mean, that would be the perfect world. And the 100 to 400 is available at the dealer that I'm buying the Z9 from. Maybe I could get the package deal right there. So anyway, if not, I'm going to be using the FTZ with the Z9 and some of my long telephoto lenses, the 80 to 400 being one of them, and my 400 2.8D lens. And we'll see how that goes, see how that works out. I have the new ZTC 20 or 2.0, or the TC2, I guess I'll say, for Z. It's funny, I have that, and I don't even have a lens that I can use it on yet. That's because I picked it up when it was available, and who knows when it's going to be in stock again. So anyway, I've got it waiting for the lens. All I need, well, I say all I need now. As soon as the Z9 arrives, and again, hopefully it's going to be next week that they're going to make the announcement and give us a delivery date or a stock date. And as soon as I can get the Z9 in my hands, I'll be having a ball. If I can get the 1 to 400 to go with it, I already have the TC. So it'll be interesting times then. Then I get to do a bunch of videos, my amateur hour videos, talking about the camera and letting everybody ask any questions they have about it. But that's all a dream right now. But tonight, what are your hopes for the 100 to 400? I'm hoping that it at least matches the 80 to 400. You can see in the title there, 80 to 400 is 4.5 to, what is it? 6, I think. I can't remember. You know what? I can do this. It is 4.5 to 5.6. So there you have it. I'd be extremely happy. However, I don't know if it's going to be, I don't think it's going to be an internal focus lens or zoom lens, just like the 80 to 400. That's a considerable external zoom mechanism there. So I expect the 100 to 400 to be the same. So we shall see. I've been happy with this lens. I know a lot of people have really talked bad about it, but it served me well. And the other thing is that I'll tell you what, running around a mile and a half motocross track up and down hills, dodging all the no cross areas and everything else. I can't imagine toting a prime lens around. However, I have a friend that shoots motocross as well, and he would take his 600 f4 out on a D4 on a monopod. And well, he was pretty stationary throughout most of the races. He'd claim his spot and then pretty much stay there. With the 80 to 400, I had the opportunity to run all over the track, and it makes for a long day, starting at 8 in the morning and ending sometime late afternoon. But two things that it gave me. I know a lot of people want the primes, and I understand that for shooting wildlife, this, that, and whatever. But with a zoom, it opened up so many other opportunities for shots that I would not been able to take with a prime. For one reason, just toting it around. And when I'm on the track shooting, I always have two cameras with me. I always carried the 24 to 70 2.8, and I always carried the 80 to 400, or typically carried the 80 to 400. I've shot as many photos at 80, 90, and 100 millimeter as I have up in the 350 to 400 millimeters. So it never failed me. I failed me a few times, but and it is a chunk to hold all day long, but it's not impossible. And no, I didn't go home at night and my poor shoulders and all the other stuff I hear about people talking about holding a D850 with a 24 to 70 all day long, and they're complaining that it just wears them out. Man, where are we in this world today? But that's not to say that it isn't a chunk of weight. So I have a couple of photos, or several photos, that I can pull up. Nobody's in here right now. I don't want this thing to go on forever unless we had a full house of people that wanted to chat about it. Let me see if I can pull one up right now. Again, these are some of the rejects, culled photos, not rejects. They just didn't make the cut for a tri-state newspaper I was shooting for at the time. But let me jump over here and let's go to one of the photos. And I think it's going to go to one of the photos. We shall see. Of course, it will not. And, well, that's not going to work out. So sorry about that. I thought I had that figured out as well earlier. But it seems we don't. Daggone it. I wanted to pull these photos up. I've got several from different focal lengths, everywhere from 80 all the way up to 400. One thing that I noticed shooting this lens, and these were all shot with the D4. One thing that I noticed was when you're looking at the photo on the back of the camera, or when you get home and you pull them up on the computer, they look soft. And I thought, oh dear, when I first got the lens, I thought, man, here it comes. This is going to be a dud lens. But when you zoom in, the detail is there. It's pretty amazing. I wish I could get it to come up. And folks, I am sorry about that. Let me see here. No, it will not. Or at least, hang on. Maybe. No. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So here it is. It's not mirrored correctly, but that's okay. You get the gist here. Let me get down here. All right. So this is a photo, no edit. I believe that this is let me see. This is at 400 millimeter. I don't know if you can read all the data. You can, it's backwards, but no. So this is at f8, 1/2000th of a second. And in motocross, anywhere from 1200 to 2500 of a second is kind of the sweet spot. And that just depends on the weather, the lighting, and everything else. But so this is at 400 millimeter. All right, let me go back to it and zoom in, and let me pull it over here. All right, so you can see the difference. So this is at 100% right here. This is with the 80 to 400. Move his helmet in view. So I'll move it right there. Let's zoom out. So this one, it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look as crisp. It's just, I have no idea what it is, but when you zoom in, the detail is there. So that just shows you how much room you have to crop too. So 400 millimeter, why would you be shooting at 400 millimeter? Well, you have to understand that you can't stand everywhere you want to for some of the segments of the track. Some of the locations that you can see those sections that you want to cover are a pretty good distance away. And that's where that 400 millimeter really came into play. And then closer locations that are outside the 24 to 70 millimeter range, I still had 80 millimeter up. So I could drop it, I could zoom out all the way down to 80 millimeter for those shots that were coming closer. The other thing it did is it allowed me to keep my composition of some of the riders as they were getting closer and closer and closer. Now, why would you take multiple shots? Well, that's one of the things about motocross and all the other sports, I would guess as well, is the fact that you're looking for an expression, and you can see in some of the photos the eyes of the rider, and you can see some of the face. So that makes a big difference in a photo. You know, all the big magazines, that's what they're looking for, is something that makes a difference, showing emotion or something like that. So that's why multiple photos as they're moving to you, away from you, and everything else. The Z9, looking at the tracking in the third teaser, man, I don't know. That looks like it's going to be a game changer. I mean, for me, out on a track, I think that would be fantastic. So we shall see. We shall see. Get my pointer back up here. So we shall see if the camera, the Z9 with the 1 to 400, can improve those odds even more. You have to become a pretty good photographer as far as panning goes when you're on a motocross track. Now, I know this doesn't equate to everything in sports, but almost all motorsports, that's what you're looking at. The opportunity to pan, catch the decisive moment. Maybe it takes multiple shots, things like that. And I think that's where the A9 is, or A9. Oh, the Z9 is going to excel. So again, this is really about the 100 to 400. If you like, I'll pull up a couple more. Drop a comment in the chat. And if you've got any questions or anything you want to see, I'll try to find a couple of others here to pull up. So, and this one is at 280 millimeter. So let's look at that. So this is at 280 millimeter. As you can see, there's really nothing special about it. I mean, it looks okay. Obviously, could use some sharpening if you were going to go with this composition. However, once we zoom in on the photo, you will see that. But this is the 80 to 400. If the 100 to 400 betters this, it's going to be a pretty outstanding lens. Yeah, a lot of people are going to say, it's the weekender, birder, or action photographer lens. I'll tell you, no matter how pro I was or it would be out there on that track, this is a lens that I would carry for those photos. I'm not carrying a prime around all day, and also taking the chance on missing a shot that I would otherwise get with this lens. So give me just a second here. Let's find another. Try to find something that's in the That's 400. Okay, here we go. You'll see why these were the calls. They're not exactly the photos that made the cut for some of the visuals, but okay, so this looks pretty good as it stands. However, again, let's zoom in 100%. Now, this is shot with a D4 and the 80 to 400, and we still get this much room to zoom. Man. So you see all the detail is there. The out of focus area isn't the greatest in the world, but for sports, hey, sports action, I think it's fine. You're not taking portraits. However, the out of focus area does render better on a tripod. Not that the shake has anything to do with it, but being able to look at the background out on the track. Believe it or not, background is not one of the things that you're really looking for. You're looking for the rider and what he's doing and trying to capture that. Yeah, thanks for that. These are decent shots. I'm not going to rave about them because. All right, so let me find another. Let's go down. Oh, I'm sorry. That shot was at 310 millimeters. So there you go. Yeah, you're right, Mega. You're absolutely right. You can try to capture it with the composition you're looking for, but of two or three locations that you definitely want to go because of the background and the action that you expect to take place there. But once the action gets going and you capture a few of the shots that you want, it's time to move on. And soon you forget about the background and you're just watching the riders because that's what everybody wants to see. They want to see these guys doing their thing, and somebody needs to be there to capture the action. So, let's see. Uh, there you go. We'll look at this real quick. Now, I'll explain something else. You don't always get to pick the lighting the way you want it. That's one of the tough things about doing this as well. I mean, it's outdoor, the sun, clouds come by. That's why it's so difficult to, it's hard to set the white balance because it's changing constantly. It's uh, hard to adjust the, well, shoot, it's hard to adjust the blown out it is on the side of the bike there. His helmet's blown out. Now, believe it or not, you can recover quite a bit of that with the D4. It was very good. Not necessarily as much in the highlights as most people know if they shoot Nikon. However, you can dig some detail out of the shadows. So why wouldn't you underexpose? Well, again, these guys are flying around this track. You've got 95 things you're trying to think of at one time. So it's just going to happen. If you try to underexpose, that you're going to get bit. And I'll show you in a minute here. I think this is probably a good one for that. And this is at 400 millimeter. So you can see the shadow here. You can see the blue sky with a few clouds, the shadow of the rider on the ground. Let's see how close this is to, let's try to dig some detail out of him. So there you go. Now, I'll tell you this, after editing a bunch of these photos, by the way, that's Ryan Dungey. He was the reigning motocross or outdoor champ that year, the year I was shooting. However, at the time, he was not the points leader, and he would go on to lose the title to Ryan Villapoto, for anybody that's into motocross. You can bring a lot of this shadow out, or you can actually bring some of the detail out of the shadow with the Nikon D4. It did a real good job. Some of the photos that I edited, I was able to bring some back, and you could bring it back far enough that it just wasn't natural anymore, because how could the underside, a shadow on the ground, and the backside of the rider and the bike being as well exposed as everything else. But I think you get the idea. You can bring back enough detail so that you can see this side of the bike and some of the details there to make it a little more appealing. But so Let me jump down, try to find a couple more. So this is interesting. This one is at 300 millimeter. There you go, portrait lens. That's at 300 millimeter. And the reason it's at 300 millimeter is because he was walking up to the podium and I couldn't get there fast enough. So I just stopped and composed the photo. There are a couple that are much better. Again, these are the calls, but it was just funny that I could still get a decent photo of him walking up to the podium. And so there you go. There's his eye with no eye autofocus. Imagine that. It's not absolutely perfect, but for 300 millimeters, and I can't remember how far away I was, not bad. You can see that there is a little noise in there, and that's because running a higher ISO just to make sure that you don't underexpose too far. And again, for some of the tracks, you're going to have a lot of shaded areas. And if you're shooting in those shaded areas or they move in and through a shaded area, you want detail enough to be able to bring it back. So, all right. If you guys are tired of these, or if you're tired of it, I'll quit showing these and we can just chat. But anything else that you want to see, let me find something from, let's go down to 80 millimeter. Let's call for, let's find 80. So here we go. We're at the bottom end of the lens. Okay. That's at 80 millimeter. We don't see that. Okay, this is a good example of the zoom. Okay, so got 3 photos here shooting in 80 millimeter. A lot of contrast, I know. Some terrific action going on in that first turn. And I'll tell you, looking at the monitor on the other side here, is it's going through the is it's going through the stream. It's a little more contrasty. What you're seeing is a little more contrasty than the actual photo. So, bear with me here. But anyway, so here's the composition, and it gives you plenty of room to maneuver and decide what piece of the action that you actually want. So in this photo, you can already see the battle going on over to, as you're looking at it, your left. That's where the battle is going on because everybody's crowding the turn. So let me zoom out and go to the next one. Here they are a little closer. And everything's tightening up. Then we go to the next one. And now everything's just absolutely going to mayhem. What you don't see, and what I did capture for the paper was, and I have those somewhere else, those photos, was the pileup that began after the first 6 riders on the left clear the turn, and then there's a bike that's cartwheeling and everything else. Now, if I was zoomed in to 400 millimeter, I wouldn't catch that. But because this was the composition, it gave me plenty of room to crop and put or find the scene, the composition that I wanted. So that's the 80 to 400 millimeters. So far, it's holding its own, I think. What else do we have? Let's see. Now, here's another one. So you can see here's the starting line. Obviously, I cut one end off, so that's why this is in the call pile. But you can see detail there. That's the 80 to 400 on Nikon D4. Can you imagine this at 45 megapixels? I can't imagine. I'm really excited. Not that I'll be shooting a national anytime soon like these, but I do shoot some of the local races still. Yeah, 400 2.8 for a few years, and it was as much a portrait lens as my 2.8 105. Yeah, I've actually shot some portraits with the 200 f2 for obvious reasons. It's just a fantastic lens. I've never done it with the 400. I don't know why you couldn't, except for the fact that it'd be hard to communicate. I did see a photographer. Let me jump back over here real quick. I did see a photographer that actually took some portraits of a beautiful young lady um, in a field in the middle of the city, and it was just horrific. The when he the behind the scenes shot of him and where they were in this field in the middle of a city. I mean, it was just a horrendous place, but because he was using the 400, yes, it wasn't close, and I'm not suggesting we all go out and buy 400s just for that, but the portraits were just phenomenal because of the out of focus area behind her. You would have no idea that that was taken in the middle of the city. So anyway, yeah, I know it can be done, and I think it's fantastic when you can do that. Um, Let me see. I just have one or two. I got plenty more, but uh, let's just see. I don't know why my ATEM won't let me switch on the console. So here you go. This is at 80 millimeter. I had moved to a location where I'm shooting up at the riders, which is another unique position. Not always the greatest, but you do catch some neat perspective sometimes. Action by the rider. So zooming in at 100%, as you can see, there's just all kinds of details. So again, the 80 to 400. So I expect the 100 to 400 to be as good. One of the things you'll notice here, I'm critiquing myself, is the wheels and spokes are visible with all the knobbies on the tires. Not the perfect shot because you want some movement in the wheels um, to provide that feeling of movement. So again, another reason it made the call box. All right, and I think okay. Now this is yeah. Well, it's we'll look at it because it's the lower. I mean, these are absolutely fine for editors. They're happy with it. You'll notice the vibrant colors. The camera was set that way because motocross is a very vibrant sport. Uh, the branding is expected to be visible and loud because that's the way they make it. And all the viewers that, not viewers, but those that look at the photographs for motocross, that's exactly what they're looking for: vibrant colors, oversaturated, and the whole 9 yards. However, these are all, I think these are all NEF files, but I think I had the camera set up for in portrait. 80 millimeter. Let's see, this one's at ISO 800, obviously less noise. F5.6 at 1/12/50th. So there you have it. Go over and check that block. I'll just pick an arbitrary. Let's split the difference from 1 to 400. What's that, about 250? Here's a few. Let's see. Okay, these had an edit on them. So I don't know what was done to it. I don't think that they were cropped, but these were going to, these made the first cut. And we may find out why it didn't make it. Well, you can tell it's really not a dynamic photo, and there's a little bit of movement in the rider. So, but that said, this is kind of the opposite end of what I was talking about a minute ago, where you want some motion, especially in the tires. And it's easier, it is fairly easy to do that and keep the rider sharp because the tires are spinning obviously much faster. But anyway, this isn't a lesson on shooting motocross. Sorry about that. I'm just trying to riders right, left, and this is Mr. Villapoto, who would go on to be the champ that year. But yeah, you know, this lens is fantastic. I don't know why everybody complains so much about the 80 to 400. Oh, Nikon came in and left, huh? That's all right. All right, thanks, Megan. I know you were talking about you shoot marathons. So when you're shooting marathons, are you talking about local marathons or the big marathons or what? Because I can see personally, if I were going out, somebody said, "Hey, we're going to do the local marathon here," with some of the experienced runners and so on and so forth. Would you come out and shoot it? And I have shot some events in and around me within about a 60-mile radius, some different events. But going to something like that, I guarantee you, I would take the 80 to 400. It would go with me. I might decide to use a 70 to 200, but it would go with me because it gives me that flexibility again to reach out 400 millimeters. Not just that, it gives me the opportunity for those real close, candid photos, where the 70 to 200 might not. So um, you could do it with a 70 to 200. Of course you could. But again, I don't know. The 80 to 400 for me is just served me well. I have that range, and you can see by the photos that it's. I think it's fine. Others may complain and say, "Well, it's just not this, it's not that, or whatever," and that's fine. I mean, that's why we have so many lenses to choose from. But is this a peek into what we can expect for the 100 to 400? I hope so. I've been, again, pleased with the 80 to 400, and I expect I'll be extremely pleased with the 1 to 400. Now, that said, I don't know when I'll get that 1 to 400 in my hand. So you use the 70 to 200 at the races, but yeah, you'd love the 100 to 400 for close ups from a distance. Yeah, absolutely. And if the resolution in that lens and then there'll be many arguments and Nikon rumors about whether it is or it isn't. You know how that goes, and especially by people that don't own the lens. But um, I think that uh, I think you'd be extremely happy, and if you can take your time a little bit, on the track it's different. Everything's happening so fast. You're wheeling around to catch something that just happened behind you, and you don't have time to adjust everything you want to adjust. But I would think that in a race like that, it would, while it's not slow, it's not as fast paced, and you could have some settings set up for a close up, something like that. The opportunity to make sure that your exposure is spot on. Well, of course, white balance is going to be all over the place outdoors. Most people don't understand that. They think you can set it and forget it, but no, it doesn't work that way. Just moving through shade changes your white balance. But anyway, that's all the stuff you can do in post. Unless you want just raw photos, show them what you actually saw with the eye, then that's fine as well. Um, yeah, it is compact compared to all the 400. My 400 is just an elephant. I mean, it's a chunk to haul around. And I think you said you had a 400 2.8 or used to. The 400 2.8 is not something that I'm going to carry. Well, one, I'm going to have a monopod really to shoot it. I wear a Black Rapids dual strap, and I have the 80 to 400. I just sold my D5. Before that, I had the D4, but I would have the D4 or D5 with the 80 to 400 on one side and the D850 with the 24 to 70 on the other side. So I could just drop one camera and grab the other. Could I do it with one camera? Sure, I could, but I'm not changing lenses out there, especially in that environment, the dust and everything. And it's so fast paced, you don't have time to change lenses. Some of the guys actually do that. I don't know why. Maybe they can't, they don't have a second camera or whatever, but I think two cameras is the way to go. But the 80 to 400 served me well on that D4 and the D5. The 400 2.8, I can see a difference, absolutely, but I'm not shooting, a polar bear for National Geographic. Although I don't know if it would be so bad with the 80 to 400 either. I don't know if you know Morton Himmler. or Hilmer. He shoots all wildlife, and he's shot for a long time with the Sigma. Is it the Sigma? I think so. I don't know which, the 150 to 600. I can't remember which lens. And he has stunning photography. There's stunning photos in his wildlife shooting. So that just goes to show you that it isn't always about just a prime. Not talking down the primes, that's for certain. The primes have their place, a special place, and if I could have all the telephoto primes, super telephoto primes, I would have them. But you know, at 14,000 to $18,000 a piece, you got to pick and choose what you're going to get and when you can get it. I don't know if I can save up enough money for one of those anytime soon. Oh, sorry about that. But yeah, man, I'm glad you came in here. I don't know if the photos helped, or would help you and what you want to shoot and what you're looking at the 1 to 400 for. But I hope that it showed you that the 1 to 400 is going to be a lens that will accomplish a lot. It covers a lot of ground and a lot of different genders, and I don't think that anybody would be unhappy with it if they had it. And it sounds like it's going to be pretty popular, not just because the 400-2.8 isn't coming out, because my guess is there aren't a lot of people running around that are going to be able to spend that much money uh, on that prime anyway, the new 400 2.8, especially if it has the built-in TC. I can't imagine what that's going to cost. It will surprise me if it's under 16K. But we'll see. His name is Morten, Morten Hilmer, Hilmer, Morten Hilmer. He does all wildlife photography. As a matter of fact, I expect to see him, and if he doesn't show up in the next teaser, he could, because that would be a great opportunity to show the resolution of the camera, the image quality. But he will, I guarantee you, there's going to be a video that comes out after the announcement, just like all the other ambassadors or folks that had the camera. I guarantee you he had the camera, and he's been in Svalbard for I don't know how long. I think he just got back. And I think while he was there, he may have had the camera out there to shoot some wildlife with. So I don't know, but his photography is fantastic. It's not glamour photography; it's just good wildlife, natural photography, and the guy is just enjoyable to watch. He's just, he's so peaceful the way he goes about putting his videos together. So I think you'd like it. All right, who else is in here? Anybody? There's somebody in here. Yeah, I don't want to keep harping on it, but maybe this gives us a glimpse at what the 100 to 400 is going to look like. At least we can see the focal range, and I know it has to be better than the 80 to 400. Now, some people will laugh again and say, "Oh, of course it does, because that's a terrible lens." It is not a terrible lens. It's a great lens for what you use it for. So I wouldn't suggest it to you, Mega, because I think the 70 to 200. I mean, you get to make your own choice. I wouldn't try to talk anybody into this lens, but there are plenty of applications where this lens is great. So, and there you have it. Maybe the 1 to 400 will be available at the same time that the Z9 is available. So we'll see about that. I expect that 1 to 400 to go for, depending on what the aperture range is on it, but I expect it to go for about $2,800. I hate to say that because I'd like to get it cheaper, and I'd love for them to surprise us and tell us that it's going to be cheaper. But I have a feeling it's going to fall in that range. The original price on the 80 to 400, I think, was $25.99 or $26.99. I can't remember. Seemed expensive at the time, but it paid for itself just on the motocross tracks. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the videos that are going to come out after the announcement. It's going to be fun to watch. A lot of ambassadors. Of course, me personally, I'd like to see the wildlife, but I want to see some action photography, motorsports of any kind, bikes or whatever it is. I remember with the D5, I can't remember the photographer's name, but he was shooting F1 cars, I believe, out on a closed track. All right, buddy, I won't hold you any longer. It's gone longer than I thought it would, but I'm glad you stopped by. And I don't know if this helps anybody that may stumble across the video or not, but there you go. At least you get a peek at the 80 to 400 if you have never shot with it, and kind of get an idea of what the 1 to 400 should be. So, all right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate you coming by. Sorry about the mix up the first couple of times. Again, my A10 Mini Pro's killing me. It's just, I don't know what's going on. I know it's a problem with Blackmagic right now. So maybe they'll get it straightened out and give us some instructions on how to make it work the way it's supposed to again. But thanks for coming by. And until we hear something else, we'll be standing by. I'll jump in here and throw another video out. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate you coming by. Bye-bye.